Okay, so we're live for episode number 1 of the Derby podcast. And that's with lots of excitement that I am welcoming and hosting Patrick Dandelot, who's a very dear friend of mine and who's an architect. He's the co-founder of Asphalt, which is well, I'll let him describe in more details, what they actually do, but it's, I would describe them as being an emerging architecture agency in Paris. They started as 4 co-founders and they're growing. I'm not sure how many there are now, but they're doing well, it seems, because he's very busy. It's been difficult to find time with Patrick, despite being in the COVID times. We are dear friends for probably nearly 20 years now. And we studied together at business school. And I guess that's part of the reason I wanted to invite Patrick to the podcast, because he's made this very inspiring transition from doing business school to being a consultant, and following some, I guess, preset tracks coming out of business school, and then really breaking away from them and doing something that he's very passionate about. And so I guess that's a lot of reasons why Patrick is the first on this podcast to be invited. And so Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I have maybe the first question I wanted to ask. Maybe first, maybe you could describe, what you're doing now.
So we started an architecture studio 4 years ago with 3 friends of mine. We studied together. So it's 4 to 5 years now, 4 years and a half. And it's an ongoing process. We have 3 to 4 people working for us now, so we're more or less 8 full time, and it's going well. The size of the project is slowly changing. We started with family homes and that kind of scale, and now we're more working on housing projects and dwellings. So it's kind of an exciting time. We're very happy about what we're doing at the moment, but we're growing very fast, so we have to survive in the process, basically. That's point 2 at the moment.
You have to survive in the process, yeah. And how does that feel, to be growing so fast and at the same time having to survive in the process?
It's more and more okay, to be honest. It's been a difficult year with the COVID and stuff as well, because during the first lockdown we were all apart, so that was a bit complicated in a creation process. It wasn't the best, but we're super busy, but super excited at the same time, and I guess we are getting used to to being super busy. I don't know. Something is cooling down for all of us. Actually, it's intense, but it's more and more okay.
Yeah, great. Great. That
it's actually feeding us, I guess. So yeah,
it's feeding you.
It's feeding all of us, yeah, and the people working for us as well. I hope, but I think it's the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting just hearing you say this. That it's feeding you now. You said earlier it's been 4 or 5 years, right? And you started the agency, and so I think it's interesting to hear that it's although you are now experiencing some real success and you've had the sort of pains of growth, although they're easing, it's taken some time to get there.
And it's not finished. I mean, usually people tend to say that it's taking 10 years to build an architecture studio. I guess it's true actually, because it's still, I mean, yeah, we still have some difficult months, financially speaking. So it's not like really stabilized yet, but it's getting better. And again, the size of the projects is increasing, so we're more and more profitable. So that's sort of a relief. So yeah, it's not finished, but we're getting there. And it's a long process. Anyway, to create any kind of company, I guess, is a long process. Even if some companies are more profitable earlier on, I guess it's always a very long process to be sort of stable.
Yeah. Yeah, I relate to that.
Otherwise, you're very unhappy. It's part of the game, basically.
Yeah, it's part of the game, and I guess you also said, it was a relief, right? That the size of the projects were growing, and I guess it sounds like there's been that stress or worry, as you get until you get to a certain stage, and I'm sure there are other worries coming, along the way, but but at least it's been there.
The same, but yeah.
So I want to ask you. So now that the context is quite clear for our listeners, I just want to ask you. The podcast is called Dare Be. It's the name of sort of my life project now, and what it stands for is really daring to be what you want to become, in a way. And I just would be interested to hear, what does that mean for you, daring to be, or maybe what it meant for you when you make the leap?
I don't know. I'm probably it's complicated to answer this question, because I actually always wanted to be an architect. It always was my dream. So it stayed when I started studying something else after my baccalaureate. I was in a kind of a good school, so I just followed the path, and I went to Prépa. It's the French system that leads to the business schools here in France. So I guess it was the easy way, but I always had this question about architecture in the back of my mind, and I don't know if I said to myself at some point, okay, I have to dare to be what I really want to be. It was just more natural, I guess. At some point, I was sort of in a feeling I was in a dead end, working in consulting for 3 years, a bit bored, actually, to be completely honest. And this question was still there, so I took a gap year from the consulting company to do the first year of architecture. And in the end of the year, it was quite clear I was going to quit and to go on studying architecture. It was okay. Now I think it was easy, but it's not. Actually, it was a bit more complicated than that. During the year, when I had still the opportunity to go back to my work, I had difficult periods. It was kind of interesting, because I still had a sort of a backup. So when it was a bit difficult at school, and I thought, what am I doing here? Really, I have a job waiting for me. It's kind of it was kind of a stupid idea, etc. But I don't know. In the end of the year, it became quite clear I wanted to study, and when I quit, then it was very easy, because I made the decision, and everything sort of aligned itself, and I don't know. It wasn't a fight afterwards. It was a fight to get there, to quit. But afterwards, it was just a good decision, and it's always the case with decisions. Every decision, I think you can there are no good or bad decisions. It's what you make of it, actually. And it was actually quite easy to make it a good decision afterwards. It wasn't that hard. But yes, the process to get there was probably the tough part, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things I want to engage with what you said, because and that's really, you know, everything you said here is so important, because that's the part, you know, I mean, I believe most of the listeners to the podcast will be at the stage where they're contemplating, you know, making something different, or not necessarily, but at least, you know, engaging in maybe even the current career in a different way, right? So, so what I'm just maybe to understand a little more in depth. So when you talk about the decision, it sounds like you took the decision after 1 year of studying architecture.
Well, I took a first decision. It was to take a year off from work to try something else, because
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling really. It's not that I wasn't feeling well. It was going well, actually. It was sort of interesting, and the people I was working with were super nice, and I had a good time at work. It wasn't like hell at all. It was just I wasn't feeling in my natural habitat, in my environment, in my, I don't know, very comfortable. I wasn't feeling really comfortable. I was seeing the time in the future when this would go wrong, because not interesting enough, actually, not aligned enough with what I needed, I guess. It's not that it's not interesting. It's a judgment. It's not what I meant, but still, it was something like that. I was seeing the moment in a few years' time when it would have been like super difficult to go on. So I thought I had to do something. So one of the it was in 2000, and I started in 2009. So it was just after the crisis, the 2008 crisis. So there was an opportunity in the consulting company to take a year off. They were offering that on quite a large scale. So I benefited from that. I was paid like a third of my salary during the first year. So it was kind of an honest deal. Considering you're working so much in the first year, it was really enough to cover my expenses. But that was the first decision, and afterwards, during the first year, it's a very difficult year in architecture. I don't know how it is in other countries, but in France, I guess some of the teachers in first year try to discourage people that aren't really passionate about it, because it's a difficult job. So it can be quite hard. I was actually very happy to start again with at the age of 27. It was super interesting to study later. So it was an intense year, and again, sometimes it was a bit difficult. I was wondering if I was really where I should be. So I had my doubts, of course, and stronger doubts again, because I had the opportunity to go back to my old job, to my former job. But in the end of the year, something, I don't know, the projects I was working on, the whole thing became clearer, and I decided to go on. It was actually quite good. It was a decision in two steps, and the first step just led very easily to the other. I mean, the second decision wasn't really a decision; it was just natural. It was the first decision was sort of a big decision, but it wasn't a. It wasn't. That was a backup, so it was okay. But then afterwards, it was just like natural.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, actually. Mm.
Yeah, and the way you talk about it, I mean, it sounds like, you know, I mean, there was a planning aspect and there was an opportunistic aspect. In the sense that opportunistic because it was 2009, your consultancy needed to cut costs basically, but they So they offered you that opportunity, and you seized it, and then you planned it. And can you just talk for our listeners about the process? You know, when you studied, so you were 27 years old, and you took on, I mean, you know, quite a few years ahead of you to study again. Can you talk a bit about what's the process to become an architect?
Yeah, it's taking, well, in France it's taking 5 years, and then one more year to do your, what in England is called Part 3, but it's much shorter in France. It's just 1 year working for a studio. Then you pass an exam. So it's 6 years in all. So yeah, it was kind of long, but I don't know. I thought that you know, being finished with 32 years old was okay, like most people in Germany, I guess. So
after the PhD.
After the PhD, exactly. So no, that really, I don't know, that didn't scare me. There were other issues, of course. Not to earn money for so long. I had to work during my studies. So it was, yeah, it wasn't an easy decision. Of course, there were disadvantages. Clearly, I changed my life. I used to earn quite well, and so I had to stop a lot of things. Stop skiing, for instance, which I really love. Well, I had to make some concessions, but really wasn't that difficult. I was really fed again by what I was learning, and once the decision was made, it was kind of easy. It was kind of easy. The first year and maybe the second year were a bit hard because I mean the other students I was with at school, they were very young, between 18 and 20, but after 2 years it began to be okay when they turned 20, after 2 years away from their homes, and they grew up. I don't know, something happened, and it was kind of easy to be friends with them, and I finally created my studio with 3 of them. So some of them I have a 10 years difference with them, so it's going well, and it wasn't such a big deal in the end.
So you're like the big brother in the
Big brother, yeah, I guess. Less and less, huh?
yeah, of course, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting hearing you talk about I mean, really big concessions you made, right? I mean, it's 6 years of your life where, I mean, yes, you're focusing on studying and learning things that you're passionate about, but still it's difficult. When, you know, I remember, you know, I was in my career and sort of, you know, climbing the ladder, and you were sort of on a totally side track, you know, and I felt like you were so brave in saying no to what everybody else was saying yes to.
It's funny because I had two kinds of reactions around me. There were people overexcited by what I was doing. A lot of them actually. A lot of them working in companies, in consulting, in the business world, and they thought that what I was doing was very brave, and I was so courageous, and but it didn't feel that way actually. Again, it was. After the first step, it was kind of natural, and everything just went on. Of course, I postponed a lot of things, my personal life, etc., etc. But it didn't feel so difficult. And the other kind of reaction was, "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" So I had some of these reactions as well. But it's funny because those people, after a few years, came back to me and said, "Okay, you were so right." So I guess in the end, I managed to convince them.
Yeah.
This is kind of interesting. But actually, it was to be honest, my family was great. I mean, their reaction was just neutral, and it's exactly what I needed, because people overexcited with what I was doing. It was kind of heavy actually, because there was sort of a it was sort of a weight on my shoulders. Yeah, I have to succeed or something, you know. It's yeah, my family, they were quite cool about it. They said, okay, as long as you manage, do whatever you want. It's fine. There was no overexcitement and no judgment on the other side, so it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice. They
Yeah.
helped a lot actually, because it would have been probably a bit more difficult without the not the approval, but at least the them being okay, I guess.
Yeah, being open to your choices. Yeah, really interesting what you said about people being overly excited, and I think it was one of them. I mean, I hope it was more one of them than the others. I remember being one of them, and actually this putting a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's. There was no way to fail, but that was more in the beginning. I mean, again, it was more the first year. All these questions became lighter afterwards, because afterwards it was done. I mean, I could have quit afterwards, but I hate not finishing when I start. So I guess it was set, and then again everything was kind of easy. I'm of course I didn't start a family as I planned to before 30. A lot of things didn't happen the way they should have happened, or the way I imagined them to happen. And it's I don't know. It's not a regret. I don't regret anything, but it still feels strange when I think about me when I was 20. All the dreams I had, and all the the points in my life I had imagined, and in the end, nothing happened the way I had imagined. But in the end, it's kind of a good thing, I think. Makes it more interesting, and I don't know. I still feel very young, even if I'm not that young anymore. But it's yeah. I don't know. It allowed me to stay young, I guess, to start again as well, and to be able to to see things a bit differently. It was actually a rich experience, not only about professional life, but as a in a more personal respect as well, I guess.
Yeah. And you talked about feeling young. What makes you feel young? What keeps you feel young?
I don't know. I'm very excited about what I'm doing every day. I wake up every morning quite excited about going to work. First of all, because it's, I mean, we created something really nice. My three partners, they're great, and we have fun together. And I think we're building something at the moment with the first people working for us, which is really nice. It's a good working atmosphere, and it's probably even more important than what you're actually doing. So yeah, everything young because excited about new projects, because still lots of things to build, and it's not going to end soon. Young because probably when I'm 70, I'm still have, I'm still going to be able to have new projects, new exciting projects to work on. I don't know. It's kind of have a nice feeling.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And I wondered, you talked about learning earlier, learning again at 27 felt really good. What role is learning playing for you now in your life and career? Is it still important, or is it now, okay, I've learned, well, I mean, I'm sure you're never done with learning what you have to learn, but how important is it?
It's extremely important, actually. Things are changing very fast in the way of building things at the moment. So we have to learn every day, and each project is an occasion to learn something new. So we're learning, of course, we're learning every day. We are surrounded by people that are full of knowledge, and it's actually great to investigate for each new project. No, it's something that won't stop, and it's what makes it interesting. And again, it's probably why I still feel young, because I still have so much to learn, and it's endless. It's endless. It's not like I became a sort of an expert or anything. I know more than before, but it's it's far from being over the learning process. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, it makes me think about the saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Well, in architecture, it's actually really true. Yeah.
Cool. And when you think about where you are now and the journey, what's been most rewarding for you?
So actually, well, it was quite rewarding to be able to take this decision, to make this decision. Sorry, because I had been talking about it for years before that. Actually, I had tried when I finished studying in my business school. I had tried to enter an architecture school then. I didn't get in at the time. And so I started working in consulting, etc., etc. But it's something I was talking about to my close friends, I guess. Also, in order to force me to do it, something like that. I have a few friends that I remember at the time, before making the decision, I had told them, okay, if in 3 years I didn't try, you have to push me and force me to do it, something like that. And actually, my girlfriend at the time, she helped me a lot. Actually, she really pushed me to do it. She felt it was important for me, and she was very supportive with the project, so it helped a lot. But not only her, actually, a lot of my friends as well. A lot of my friends who, I'm thinking of one friend in particular who changed career as well. She studied with me in business school, and then she became a psychologist. And we talked about it quite a lot together, and it was quite a big help at the time. Now I think about it. Yeah. So good people, key people, to in order to help you probably make the leap, I guess. Yeah.
Who help you
take the step was
take the leap? Oh, okay, yeah. So interesting. So rewarding has been this, and obviously the road hasn't been all straight and upward. What's the can you share a difficulty that you encountered? I mean, you've already alluded to some, but maybe something that's been really difficult and that you're happy it's behind you.
It was actually quite well. Again, I put my personal life on hold. I still haven't started a family yet, and it's something I really want to do in my life. I'd love to have kids one day. So it postponed a lot of things. So that's the first thing, which was a bit difficult, but it was difficult at the time. It became less difficult now after a few years. And the other thing was to to start studying again with 27 when everybody's 18 is one thing, but it was sort of okay. But to start working again, knowing nothing at 32, as an intern in an architecture studio, that was a bit tough. That was a bit tough, but. So I chose, I remember I didn't want to work for somebody too young, for a cool young studio. That wasn't my goal. So my bosses, they were like over 70, both of them, and my ex-bosses. And it was very good like that. But still, of course, I was working with people who were probably, I don't know, six years or 7 years younger than I was, and who knew so much. It was it was intriguing, but once you accept the rules, it's fine. And I guess it was a sort of a shock in the beginning, and then you get used to it. It wasn't such a big deal in the end.
You know what I love about your story is the humility. You know, you had to position yourself into being very humble about not knowing. You know, about starting something from scratch without knowing where you were going to end up, but also, you know, being 32 and being the intern. No, that's not easy.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, well, the first days were easy, but very soon you just work and you learn a lot. I have another friend of mine is doing the same actually, but with 45. So it's kind of it's even harder for him, I guess.
Cool. And so tell us maybe what do you see next for you?
What do I see next? It's a very good question. We again we grew quite a lot this last year, and we have a big question about the size of the studio, about the size of the projects. We're participating at the moment in competitions that are a bit too big for us. I think it's a debate we have to have between us with my partners. But yeah, there's a quite big question about the. We don't really want to become a huge thing. With like 30 people working for us. It's not our dream, but we have to find a way to stay small and have interesting projects. So it's kind of a challenge. So that's the big question at the moment: how to manage to have interesting projects without becoming an enormous thing, and without working too much. So it's kind of an interesting equation. But we'll see. It's all happened very fast, and of course we have to take some time to figure out how we're gonna orientate things next. Otherwise, it's just gonna grow and grow and grow, and projects are well, we might have a crisis in the end in the real estate world as well, so it might stop, but the prospects for us for next year, they're quite good, and I think we have to refuse some things. It's otherwise we're going to lose a bit why we started the thing in the beginning, I guess.
Yep. Yep. And so just as closing question for you, what advice would you give to people who are inspired to get closer to something that matters to them? You know, what helped you?
I don't know if I have an advice, but more have so something to say about it. It's interesting because it looks difficult from the beginning, and then actually when you made sort of a first step, a first decision, then it gets quite easy, because if you're motivated by what you're doing, it's just easier. So again, when people were telling me or still telling me, it's crazy what you did, you had a great job, and you lost everything in a way, and you started studying again. I always answered that it was in the end the easy way. It wasn't the tough way, actually, not at all. I'm still convinced about it, and if I had to do it again, I would definitely do it again, even though some of the things weren't perfect. But you know, it's always the case, right? I guess.
But so you're saying it looks harder from the other side than it actually is.
Once you're in, it's actually easier, and it's just so much easier to do something you're motivated by.
Yeah.
to me, well, for me, it was very important to be able to do that. But I have to admit, sometimes I envy people who have a a standard job and manage to be happy with it, and just not over ambitious about the finding an interest in their professional life. I think I couldn't have done that, so I kind of it's not something I'm judging. It's something I envy sometimes, but it wasn't made for me, I guess.
Yeah. I think that what you're saying is super important. Is that it wasn't for you, but it may be for other people, and that's absolutely fine, because they can express what matters to them elsewhere than in their job, and
exactly,
that's fine.
It's great as well, actually.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for those words. Actually, I think that's great. Yeah. Any other parting comments you'd like to make before we end this fast episode?
No, I guess if you have to well, if you feel there's something you're interested in and is within reach, it's I guess it's very important to try. Otherwise you will never have the answer to the question, actually, if it was something that could make your life easier, something like that.
Make your life easier. Good. Patrick, thank you for joining me on this first episode. Cool. Well, and that's it for us for today.